All right. Hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, 2025, and this is the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank broadcast. Today, we're minus one person today. We've got Chris, we've got Dan, we've got Jay, and we've got myself. Today, we don't have a case study to present today, but we are going to have some just kind of offshoot discussions in the note world. So if you are live today, please chime in with some questions, and we'd be glad to answer them to you. Stay tuned. Well, if it isn't the four of us,
Four horsemen.
There you
on
go.
a Wednesday. Let me rid this overlay. I apologize for those graphical errors. Hump day. Chris, your thing is backwards again. I'm not sure if that's probably a StreamYard thing.
Your E7.
I'm going to change it because now is it backwards?
It shows backwards currently, yeah.
Shows that you're E7.
Are you backwards,
70.
Chris? Are you crisscross?
Now is it
There you go.
backwards now too?
It didn't
Yeah.
change.
It
No,
didn't
nothing
change.
changed. Nothing
Okay,
changed.
so let me change my virtual background to, let's see here.
Maybe change it to something else and change it back, it'll work. But Dan doesn't actually have a virtual background. He is just like got a grand piano in the back.
Yeah,
so he
this
goes
is
turn
just
around
my
and just start
initial
playing.
residence. Yeah, that's all. Anyway.
This is just your summer home.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
you go.
This is my fourth home. Yeah, that I.
You're fourth. There you go.
All paid for by passive income.
There you go.
I'm just
Well, hey, Chris.
because it logged me out or I tried to log in. I don't know what happened. So guess what? I can be E7. You know,
You're,
Right,
you're
E7.
E7 today.
That sounds like a gaming thing. E7.
E7. Actually, if you're a baseball fan, it's an error by the left fielder. But
That is true. That is true. But who cares about baseball, right? We care about notes today, right?
absolutely.
Notes.
Yep.
So, like I said in the opener, there's no real specific agenda today. There's no case study today, which is not a bad thing. So there's kind of more dialogue. So I guess as things have developed, like in 24 going into 25 or halfway through 2025, it's up in the air whether mortgage interest rates, as far as conventional rates, are really going to move that much up or down. My thought, I'll get the rest of your thoughts in a minute. It's not really going to move that much, but we'll see. I've been wrong before, and I guess it wouldn't be a bad thing if it did move down a little bit more. But I also want to bring up some AI questions as well. So what do you guys think about the current rate environment, and do you really think it's anything to be concerned of if you're a note investor?
I agree. I think there was a report that came out recently that they only anticipate very minimal rate drops between now and the end of next year. As somebody who doesn't like to affiliate with either political party in any way, shape, or form, there is kind of that tug of war though going on between the Federal Reserve and the executive branch, which executive branch wants rates dropped. The Federal Reserve say not yet. Federal Reserve Chairman, I think, is on board till next March or May. So if not much happens before then, I think after that you might see a little bit more movement, depending on where we're at in the economy and just where things are falling into play. But I don't think you're going to see any significant. They're talking, I think, quarter or half a point between now and the end of next year, which is a lot in the grand scheme of things, but people thinking that mortgage is going to go back down to 4.5%. That's not, anytime soon.
Yeah, I feel like that's unlikely because I feel like if they tried to do that, you're going to really spike inflation. So I don't know that they have that lever to pull.
And if they did, it means the economy's tanked, and then home prices have probably dropped considerably, and job losses are significant. So, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All
Well, I
right,
think
Dan.
the 50-year average is like 7.5, or I read that somewhere, as far as the average interest rate for a home. And it's like, I grew up in the really high time, so 17, 18%.
Yeah, historically, they're not really like
We're
that high. Yeah,
normal.
it's not like the extreme, like, 20% or whatever, but
No.
even a lot of times after that, there's been times where they were like 10, and that was kind of
Yeah.
normal for a long
Yeah.
time.
I
So,
bought my first house 2001. My rate got down to 6%. At the point in time, my parents said, lock that in because that's awesome. So back 25 years ago, 6%. I mean, all through, my wife bought her first property, I think in 04, and I think she was at like 7.5% or something at
Yeah.
that point in time. So it's not, the issue is, the home values are now up here
Right.
compared to where they were 25 years ago, and incomes have only moved this much. So that's really where the tug of war has been.
Yep.
Yeah.
that is absolutely the case. So welcome to the inflation. You got appreciation, but there's also the inflation that's taking place.
Because I know if I tried to buy the house I'm in right now today, I couldn't afford my house.
I couldn't afford mine at 6 or 7 or whatever versus 2.75. Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine's
you must
paid
have
for,
locked
so
yours
it
in a
doesn't
few
matter.
years ago. Your rate?
But I'm saying if you had to buy your house today and
Yeah.
mortgage it at 6 or 7%, could you afford it?
I have to run those numbers. I don't know.
Well, just to pretend you don't have as much equity as you have today, too.
That's what I'm getting at is
Well,
if I
true.
put a for
True,
sale sign
yeah.
on my house and drove by it and said, oh, I want to buy that house, I'd be like, hell no.
Oh,
So, how many of you are originating loans or seeing originations? But well, I know Dan's seeing originations.
well,
as
Dan's
a
seen
business,
more
but-
than any of us, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, yeah, I see a lot. I'm also converting some of my land contracts over to mortgages. So,
Oh, good.
they're existing borrowers, existing loans. They're kind of technically new originations because I'm converting them over, but I haven't been doing any from scratch just yet, but I'll probably start doing more of that like late this year, sometime next year.
I
Well,
got 2 from scratch right now.
Yeah.
Dan, I've got 1 to you that's going on,
Mhm.
and waiting on a contract on another one. I'm selling 2 of my rentals that I've had for a long time, and we're seller financing them. They're in-
Maybe you can talk to that a little bit because that seems to be
Sure.
like increasingly popular.
Well,
Sure.
here's my question for you guys. Dive into a rabbit hole here. My question is around who is actually being able to get financed on the properties that you guys are owner financing. Like, is it a struggle to find the borrower? Is it easy for you in your market to find the borrower? Like, that's what I really want to dive into.
So I guess I don't really have firsthand knowledge, but I talk to a lot of people who are doing it. By and large, people don't seem to have problems finding borrowers. I know there are some folks with like specific properties
Mhm.
where they've had a hard time, and I'm really not sure if that's just because of like the property or the area, or
Yeah.
sometimes people like they get in kind of a jam with them, and it's like they're having trouble selling it at the price they need. But no, I mean, by and large, there's a market, for seller finance borrowers. So that seems to be that part of the market seems to be fairly healthy from what I've seen.
What are you seeing as far as your peripheral on this, Dan? When you're seeing all the origination comes through, like what is like the price point that you see is like the median?
Oh gosh, it's really, really all over the map.
Okay.
There's like so there's like one segment that's like mobile homes. There's another segment of like sub 100K homes. A lot of those in like Pennsylvania, places like that. And then there's a bunch in the like 100 to 300K kind of range. Those are kind of all over. And then there's another segment that they're the people doing sub twos. And a lot of those are like high dollar, right? It's like those might be like 800K sales in California or Washington State and things like that. So there's really no I mean, I don't know. I'd have to do math to figure out what the median is, but there's no like, this is the bulk, what the bulk of them are. It's really fairly scattered.
100 to 300 is your band that you see the most of.
Yeah, like you're more like what I would call like a very like vanilla,
Cookie
down
cutter.
the middle
Yeah.
deal. Yeah, cookie cutter deal might be like a 250, 300K sale in Texas with 10% down, 10, 11% interest rate, that kind of thing.
Jay,
We
what
don't-
are you seeing in Fort Wayne?
Well, I can only share with what I'm doing. Okay.
Yeah.
I am basically, we're selling some of our lower end rentals, and these are rentals are in working class neighborhoods. They, I hate to say it, but these are houses that we bought back in the Great Recession.
Mhm.
All right, for a little bit of nothing. So I mean, we're into these at like we bought them at under 20,000. Okay, to be honest, and we're selling them. One of them is at 115, the other one's at 130. And we're not having, I mean, we're having people that's coming and offering anywhere between 15 and 60,000 as a down payment. So the vast majority tend to be in that 15 to 25% range. And so we've not had an issue being able to find someone who has
Yeah.
the money for the down payment and making the income. Now, sometimes getting them qualified is a little bit more of an issue because of just how they get their income. That becomes more of a challenge than anything. But many of them have the cash for the down payment.
Okay.
So
You, Chris?
we don't do a lot on the seller financing side. We do originate, but we typically originate more short term for performing within our fund, so we don't have to sell
Sure.
off the loans. They'll just roll off in 12 months or 18 months. What we're seeing is a lot of people looking for money, but how many of them are qualified is a whole nother animal in regards to people who are either equity rich and cash poor, meaning that they're cash flow negative and they can't keep up with the payments, and they're trying to get a new loan to basically refresh or restart or hit maturity defaults. So we're seeing a lot of different people trying to be very creative in regards to seeking funds, but a lot of them that we're seeking, because a lot of them isn't on the acquisition side. Some of it might be, but most of it is more kind of that bridge debt type of situation, where we're probably turning away 90% of the loans just because the people are in a situation where you're setting them up to fail, and it's whether they fail today with their current environment or buying time to, then you are basically buying that problem, and it's not something I really want to do. So.
are
Just
you
out of
doing
curiosity.
any short-term fix and flip type of loans? Are you doing any hard money type of stuff?
Yeah, that's basically what it.
doing?
Yeah, that's kind of what it is we're doing, and we
Yeah,
also
okay.
have a relationship now with several institutions where we can also sell it off to them. So if we keep it in house, in just rough numbers, we might charge somebody 12, 13, 14%. But if it's a qualified borrower and we can institutionalize it, we can get them a rate at 9% or 9.5% on a fix and flip, which is 3 to 4 points less than, because we keep it on our books. We got to pay our investors. If we sell it to an institutional investor, what they pay their insurance company is half of what we pay our investors, so they can get very competitive on some of their rates. So that's where we've been able to help some real estate investors with that, and also DSCR loans is something we've gotten into as well.
What do you typically have as skin in the game for the borrower for them to, when they qualify? Where are you about at on those types of loans, Chris?
Skin in the game, no more than typically 70-75% LTV. So, or so 25-30%. Personal guarantees involved. Sometimes we'll cross collateralize as well, but I see some companies go up to like 90%, and to me, I'm like, go ahead, like I'm all you. Like I'm not it's too much risk for me.
We'll
Are the
take it the
properties
next time around.
Are the properties in pretty bad shape most of the time?
Most-
Or
Actually, they're not. The main ones we've seen or we do are the fix and flip where they finish the fix, but they haven't sold it yet. And what's happening is these big institutions, and people ask, why do these big institutions sell these fix and flip loans? Because where their money comes from, they have very strict covenants. And if they have too many, if they have too many loans that hit maturity and they get called, they got to do something. And they can't extend that loan because their loan covenants don't allow them to, so they got to sell it off. So,
Gotcha.
but where they can work it is, so let's say the loan was written at 10%, but it's got default interest at 20%. So if that thing's in maturity, it's currently at 20%. Now, who on this phone call wouldn't take 20% on a brand new construction home that's on the market for sale for $750 and the guy owes $500?
Well,
Who wouldn't
Jamie
take
is
that?
on the call. Jamie would do it.
But yeah. So they'll
I'm big
get.
on Jamie.
So they won't sell for a huge discount. They'll sell close to par, but they have additional fees. But then you can charge an extension fee, and you might get 2 or 3 months of default interest, and then you hold it till they sell it, and you end up making
That's all gravy.
15, 18, 20% on some of these deals. And that's the ones we've seen recently, is those types of opportunities people come to us, is because I'm just going to say a big name people know, like Kiavi. I'm not saying we haven't actually bought from Kiavi, but companies like that, they've got very strict covenants that they, a lot of these maturity defaults are just, that's it. The borrower's been paying, but it hit maturity and they can't extend them. So it's like, okay, you're in default. Now I got to sell this thing or refinance it out.
And you come in and bail them out, and you're paying close to par, but you've got all the back end default stuff that's in
That's been
default
added.
interest. Yeah,
Yep.
that's all in your court, plus some points in there.
Yep. It's like the one that we had in New Jersey where, that other lender stole the money from us. So, all that default interest is tied onto it. We're like, hey, we'll take it. But, now we're, of course, chasing the title company. But, that was one that, again, we got that one at a discount, but it had a huge ticket on the default interest side of it, too, because the loan had matured.
Yeah, we talked about that one on the last broadcast, right?
Yes.
I think so. I don't have an update. No update.
It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it's 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a month ago. Yeah, I mean, we've done what we needed to do in regards to notifying title companies and so forth, and proceeding with the foreclosure still, and we'll see what happens.
Chris, do you do any mod at all in those type of situations or not?
Yep. So usually we'll not mod, but we'll extend. Like
just extend it. Yeah, you'll extend the terms.
Yep.
Same terms, but we'll go. Yeah.
So two things we've, again, kind of ways you can get creative when you write these or extend them. One is typically it's a 3-month extension. That could be between 1 and 2 points per extension. Sure. So if you multiply that by 4, that could be an extra 4 to 8% on your note. Sure. And then the other thing I've seen happen is for every extension, the interest rate increased by 1% as well. So if your original rate was at 11 and you do a 3-month extension, now it's 12. You do another one, it's 13. And you're getting points on the extension as well. And I would recommend anybody that does that, don't roll points in. Make sure they pay you the points, pay everything up front. You don't want to just keep rolling stuff into the loan. You want to get that cash in the door.
Yep, that's a good point, Chris.
It's all the cool things you can't do on consumer loans.
Yes, and
that's exactly right. Yeah.
No, we had an investor ask us the other day, is like, hey, we saw within your audited financials, hey, you got, owner occupied in business, and like, why do you have that mix? And we explained to them, it's still single family residential. The only difference really is one's owner occupied, one's not. So how we get audited with our auditors is we put them in different buckets, but each one has their own unique positives and negatives. But at the end of the day, whether you're got a defaulted borrower on that's using it as a rental or one as an owner occupied, it's still the same demand foreclosure management process.
Same process.
It's the same process. It's just a matter of, you change a little bit of, how you deal with them.
So switching topics slightly, but staying in the note world. So I have not heard of the term used very often, like a note seller's market or a note buyer's market. Have you guys heard that term used very often at all?
Somebody mentioned it to me the other day. I heard it and I forget where, but
Where do people think it is? I haven't.
That's what I want to talk about. So I've heard it like once or twice, but not to any degree that any mentor of mine has ever mentioned. But I just thought I'd talk about it.
I've
sorry,
never
Jay?
heard of that. I can say I've not heard of that, and I'm thinking, why would it be either way?
That's what I'm trying to discuss is, how would you be able to tell if it was, I mean, it's easy in a real estate broker to say you're in a seller's or buyer's market. But as a note investor, like there's really not a time that I think that one supersedes the other. It's kind of balanced in my view.
I would say it's probably neutral right now based on, again, I'll go back to when Dan and I were doing this 7 years ago at CFDs. Man, oh man, did we wish we bought about 1,000 times more CFDs.
I wish I had bought them all.
Because Dan and I wouldn't be sitting here today. We'd be hosting you on an island somewhere.
I would have an even bigger fourth house than this.
There you
go.
My wallpaper would be even more spectacular.
And that house would have a house inside it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I believe that during that time it was more buyer's market. COVID hit, it flipped to a seller's market. And now I think it's more of a balanced market of, I can find loans. You can know, and let's be honest, the amount for a performing loan hasn't changed over the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
No.
Like if you're in that 9 to 12% range, that's kind of where everything falls. And that's always where it's pretty much always fallen.
Mm-hmm.
Now the non-performing side has gotten pricier, but you can still, when you look at some of the sellers and some of the people now, it's gotten back to balance where you can get to the returns that you were targeting compared to 3-4 years ago when I saw people trying to sell non-performing at the same targeted yields as performing. It's like, this just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
The market adjusts because anybody that had knowledge of what they were doing, they were not buying them, so they're sitting on them. Yeah. So they're going to have to adjust if they want to move them.
And Dan and I know some of the guys in the NPL space that still put out some tapes that, I mean, the pricing, I just look at it and it's, I had somebody send me one today. They're like, oh, this is a reverse mortgage. You're sophisticated to take this one. And he sends it to me. They're asking $300,000 for it. The description of the property, they show a Zillow picture saying Zillow says it's worth $330,000. They're asking $300,000 for the note. Okay. And in the description, it basically says, yes, house has vandalism, damage, and most of the copper has been stripped from the house. So I'm like, oh, if Zillow says it's $330,000 in good condition, house is probably worth $150,000. So $300,000 for the note. I'm like, maybe.
I question how many of those actually trade.
They don't.
They don't. No, they can't.
I would just tell them, you go ahead and pay for the appraisal. I'll pick the appraiser, and if it values out at that, then we're good. If not, you paid for the appraisal.
Like I say, the reverse mortgages like that, I mean, they're more like an REO buy. Because you've got to factor in all the fix-up that's going to have to take place in there.
I found the secret sauce of what some of these people do. Because we bid on some of these properties from the whoever was selling them, HUD or whatever. So we looked at some and we bid on some. And HUD gives you like an appraisal, the interior photos, they give you like everything on these. So you can really get a good idea for valuation. So what I saw was some of the people that we bought notes from, buy a bunch of them. Okay. And I say bunch, we're talking like, $50 million worth. And some of the HUD appraisals are just drive-bys and they're way off in the benefit of that purchaser. But then what they'll do is they'll look at like the Zillow and the realtor values and some of these other values, and then they'll put it on a tape. So HUD had the value at say 250, and it's really probably worth 200 to 250. Zillow says it's worth 550. So then they'll get a BPO to go out there because a BPO can't see the inside. They're like, oh yeah, this is worth 500. and they paid 150 for this thing, but on their tape, and if I lose power, we have a bad storm coming through. I'll finish this quick. So what they'll do is now put it on the tape, and they'll price it based off of that
Zillow.
Zillow. So they paid 150, they're trying to get like 350 for it, and basically, oh, this is a steal. It's a $500,000 property, and it's like, show me the original appraisal from HUD, and let me take a look at that and see what that says.
Yeah.
So, but most people who buy that might not know that. So I realized this because I bid on an asset. I knew what it was worth. Then I saw it come out on a tape, and then I looked at it, and they had the value at like 550 when the thing was only worth like 300.
There's nothing more important than doing your due diligence, and don't accept at face value anything that's put onto a tape.
Yep.
Really? You don't just take the wholesaler's price on a property?
Yeah,
and say,
there you go.
The ARV has to be that. That sounds like a great deal.
That's what he said.
Yep.
Being facetious here.
Dan, did you have any comments on that stuff?
No, not really on that stuff. I think you guys got that one pretty well covered.
So those of you that don't know, we've kind of meet offline before, and we've had a couple of really, really stimulating conversations that primarily Chris has been able to lead, because he's, out of the five of us with Jamie, he's kind of the guy that's kind of spearheaded, the way to move around with AI and stuff. So I want to talk just briefly about AI. I'm pretty sure I know what your guys' answers are, but how crucial is it to have AI in your operations, as whatever sector of real estate notes that any of us are in? And what do you see as like your preferred engine to use for research topics, or for like building, I think what you call, Chris, as agents?
Agents, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Agents, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, as I say, like for me, I'm still in probably like the early stages of incorporating AI, and mostly what I've been using it for is speeding up my existing processes, right? So it's great for pulling data. I'm doing a lot of messing around. But ChatGPT can actually read an allied pay history.
Oh, really?
I did, because some of their acronyms are so cryptic. I didn't think it would decipher it, but it actually does. So for me right now, it's been more, taking my existing processes and just speeding them up. I haven't quite gotten as fancy as Chris yet with some of the other stuff that he's been into.
Jay?
What's AI?
Perfect answer for you, Jay. Perfect answer.
No, we're starting to play with it, but that is Kyle. All of you know my son-in-law. We're in business together and everything. He's the tech person of the two, obviously, and he's starting to play with it a little bit and starting to see where we might have some advantages, and where we can have some applications. Once he figures that out, then he'll show me, and I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem, but I'm just not going to take the time trying to learn all of it right now with the other things that I am doing within our company.
Jay was able to use AI to figure out the StreamYard link every day.
Hey, I got them both streaming here. I'm good. I got to figure it out, man.
He was, to his defense, he was the first one on today. Zero complaining, zero issues. Zero anything.
I mean, most note investors are still using financial calculators and legal pads. So,
I don't do that.
They probably use AI to ask like, what's the best financial calculator to use?
Yeah, that's how they use AI.
Yeah.
Where I think people got to be careful with it is, don't force it upon yourself. If you've got a system that works, like Jay, kind of mentioned, stick with it. I mean, if it's been working for you, it's great. Now, if you can find ways to make you more efficient, that's great as well.
And that's what Kyle's looking at, because he's all about processes and the efficiencies and stuff like that. And that's what he's looking at. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? I mean, if you're looking at incorporating any kind of tool, you always got to focus on like, what's the problem you're trying to solve, right? Am I trying to do something that I can't do now, or okay, I have this process, it really works, but it takes a long time, so I want to make it more efficient and go faster. Yeah, you kind of start with the problem and then you find the tool. It's really like you'll end up doing stupid stuff if you start with the hammer and then you go around like looking for nails. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't do that.
That's a good point.
And probably
I'm-
some hurt fingers too.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll probably break something if you.
squirting thumbs.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same boat with Dan and Jay. I'm in my infancy of learning about AI. I know how it can work. About a few years ago, I want to say about 3 years ago, I started incorporating it with our CRM to be more of like an intelligent chatbot. So none the wiser whoever was getting into our filter was communicating through text message to somebody named Steve. And it was just our AI bot. And then I put my head down like a year later, I look up and I'll be like, okay, AI is doing all these other things now. I'm like, massively behind the 8 ball, being able to implement AI. So I would like to see it first and foremost help me organize, my internal stuff a lot better. So that's what I'm trying to gear towards is doing that. But I like it for the research aspect of it. I think I challenge it sometimes and I ask it some questions I know what should be the answer to, and it does a pretty good job of getting really close to some difficult questions. But all in all, yeah, it's a good research tool just to have at your fingertips quickly. And then I look forward to having more of these agents and pre-programmed stuff just to dump things into for it to run like an analysis on a property or, scrape this, that, and the other about this address. Like, especially with land stuff. I don't know if you guys deal with land a whole lot, but land's pretty interesting to do due diligence on. And I feel like you need a lot more, I want to say, ambient information with land to be able to really underwrite it well. And it's really crucial not only to have the borrower's credit information, but like, what are they going to do with it? Why did they buy it? What's their their sophistication in how to develop the land. Like, what if it's, a larger tract that they're trying to cut up and subdivide? So like, I think it's more risky, but it also has bigger dividends, I think, in the long run with land. So.
No, it's, one thing I think people need to understand too is AI has been around for a very long period of time. I mean, it's just now got a fancier name, but even like CRM systems, like I remember 5 years ago, it was like, oh, who's a hot contact in your CRM because they're open. I mean, that's all algorithm based. Basically, it's AI. AI is just an algorithm. It's what it is. Think of every sports book. That's AI. That's an algorithm. Your credit report. That's an algorithm. I was at a conference once, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this people, and I mentioned some people, but like who's FICO's biggest client, one of their biggest clients? And most people will look at you at 6 Edge when you tell them it's a National Football League. And they're like, what are you talking about? And it's like, how do you think they come up with their schedule every year on who plays on Thursday or Sunday night or where they play at what time to get the most viewership audience, which of course drives ratings, which uses all these TV deals? It's all algorithm based. It's FICO who basically, or whoever owns your credit reports, they work for the NFL and a lot of these sports companies creating all these algorithms for what's going to maximize their bottom dollar. It's just old school AI. Now it's more mainstream where it's gone, user base where anybody can use it, and it's open. Open source or whatever it is. So that's what's great about it. But to answer your original question, so we use ChatGPT and we use Copilot and also a software called N8N that brings in, it connects with basically all of them, Claude. I don't even know all the other ones out there, but there's like one.
Yeah, Grok, Gemini, there's a bunch.
Yeah, there's one software out there that you can get, and I forget the name of it, they can sign up for, and actually connects to every single one of them. So you don't need accounts for Grok, Gemini, ChatGPT, and everything. It's just an account there. But you can use that to then, if you want to create some type of flows, you get to pick which one you want. Okay, Claude's better at this, or ChatGPT is better at that, or.
That reminds me of, remember there was an old website, I think it was called like Dogpile, where it would search all the search engines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a name, dog pile.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it's around anymore, but listen.
Maybe they could have done a little better job in the naming.
Yeah,
I
not
was
the best marketing.
when you were saying that, Dane, I was thinking of this TV series Office when the Ryan the temp came up with the idea of woof, WOOF. And he's like, "Hey, I'm going to send you a woof." And what it was an instant communication through every medium that they would have at that time, like fax, phone, pager, whatever, email, whatever. It was just funny.
Yeah.
Jay, I thought you'd be old enough you'd get that one, but
Oh, I got it.
okay. So ChatGPT is probably the most popular one. I haven't used Grok that much, but I heard it's pretty competitive with some of the other research AI.
Yeah, I've used I was doing a lot of messing around, putting the same prompts in like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, and I think it was Gemini. There's one other. And it's interesting how sometimes, depending on the specific question you're asking, one will give you like a really great answer, and then sometimes other ones will give you really crap. So it doesn't hurt to mess around with a few of them or put the same prompt in a few. But I found like by and large, most of the time, ChatGPT has been giving me the best answers for what I'm asking. And I've got the $20 a month version. There's like the free, there's like the $20, and I think it's like $200. And the other thing too is they change these models like all the time. So the other thing is like the thing that is like the best today may not be tomorrow. So it's surely a moving target. So
so what's good enough?
So I think I use like 4.0 for certain things, but if it's like anything with numbers, like there's one like 03 or something that is more like logistics and thinking and like, thought processing. But it's the way somebody explained it to me was pretend you're in a room and there's windows on each side and the two people on each one is Chinese and then, the other one is American. And neither one can speak the other language. And ChatGPT is a communication of trying to get the person on the left to you as ChatGPT and provide a response that the person on the right can understand. And that was like a really cool explanation because the more detailed information that person gives, the better the result you can provide to them so they'll understand it. And that's where with ChatGPT, if you just say, do this, okay, you don't know, but if you're very descriptive in what you put in, then you're going to get typically a much better, crisper, cleaner response.
That makes sense. I like that.
But I don't even know which one. I have the $20 plan. I think it's like version 4 is what I use or whatnot. That's in there.
Well, I thought we had Google Translate to take care of the Chinese. All right, always so smart, Alec.
No, my wife has to deal with other countries, and she actually just got some earbuds that through like Zoom and everything, some of these calls now, if somebody's speaking a different language, just like it, you see at the United Nations where people have the little things in their head, you basically have AirPods right now, which your AirPod actually with your Translate app can do that now. Basically you wear them and somebody's speaking one language and it just translates it for you in real time.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. That's wild, man. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on the AI stuff. It's probably a topic we should bring up more often because of what everybody said. It keeps changing. As soon as you turn around, it has 2 different models that just popped up with different stuff. So is there, to your knowledge, is there like a profession that helps build or architects like the AI flows for smaller companies or for larger companies? Like, is there a profession out there that's called a certain, what do they call it?
I don't know if they call them AI architects, but like I have a guy right now that I've hired that does everything. I basically wire map kind of what I want and like write a scope of work. And I'm like, hey, go do this. And they put it all together. There's a guy on YouTube. His name's Jack Roberts. And His YouTube page is, I'll put it in the chat here, or I'll put in the comments for everybody. It's not letting me, so I'll put it in the chat and you guys
Put it
can
in for you. Yeah.
put it in. If you guys want, get your mind blown on some of the stuff you can do, this is the guy I follow, and the guy I hired was a student of his, and it's just mind blowing some of the stuff that this guy creates. And it's funny because this guy, he's probably mid-20s, European, enjoys his coffee, looks like he smokes about 6 joints a day or whatnot, but he's just like really, cool to, listen to, but provides all of the how to do things. But if you join his group for like $50 a month, he actually gives you the actual whole process already done, and you download it and you just connect your accounts to it and you can modify some stuff. Like I learned from them. I created, what's the little things in the top, extensions? I have Chrome extensions for like LinkedIn or Twitter or Reddit, where I can basically click on it, and if there's a question that's asked, it can generate an answer for me.
Is he even a real person, or is he just AI? That would be better yet.
Oh yeah. So no, he's a real person, and it's somebody that I just found one time, and it's just fascinating how his videos are more if you want to build an AI business to sell certain things, but you can watch it and just get ideas on how to do specific things. And we've implemented lots of stuff. Like simple thing we do, we have tons of data on foreclosure laws in all 50 states. Dumped all of that into a SharePoint folder, and we use Copilot, create an agent, and we all communicate through Teams. And in Microsoft Teams now, we have a little bot on the side. You can click on it and say, what's the foreclosure timeline in Virginia? Who are the attorneys we use in North Carolina? That's all part of in that folder. So it'll spit out that information for us of, oh, Virginia, it takes 9 months to foreclose. Here's the process. Do you have any other questions or about the process or whatever? And then we'll say, oh, who are the attorneys we use? In this state or that state. I can just ask the question instead of trying to find the spreadsheet or whatever it is. It's just streamlines things to more efficiency. So it's just easier for us that we don't have to always constantly keep going back to the well.
That makes sense. That's awesome. That's pretty slick. Very slick. I don't think there's any comments on the board, but if there's anybody that has a comment or a question about what we're talking about, or just has a question in general, don't be afraid to throw it on there. Or even if you're watching the replay and you have a question, I'll monitor this stuff so we can respond back to you. So Dan, are you, and I may have missed this, did you say you're using AI inside of your Call the Underwriter business?
Not too much inside the Call the Underwriter business, but I've been buying notes in addition to that. And so I've been using it in those processes, like some in due diligence. Like it's really good for finding comps and rental rates, and then also using them to distill pay histories. Like you get this long, complex pay history.
Yeah.
You can say, just give me a table of like every month and how many days early or late they are. Then you can even make like little charts and stuff. So you can kind of like I know how to read the things, but it's kind of nice to put stuff into like a more visual format. So you get like a better conceptual understanding of what's going on. And then just using it to, look up different data. It's really good for crime. So like back in the day, I used to use Trulia a lot for crime data, and they got rid of it and other sites were sensitive, but ChatGPT is really good at like finding like the actual crime data for the area you're looking at, because oftentimes it's like in different databases. Yeah, so it's more like speeding up my existing note buying processes. The underwriting world, not so much, because that's a little more
manual,
cut and dried. Yeah, well, so the thing, right? So if you look at like what AI actually is, there's a lot of confusion around it, right? So you might have a very complex equation you use or process. The thing that kind of makes AI special is AI can learn from itself and change the equation, right? So it's like you start with a formula to do something, AI can like optimize the formula and adjust it. And for the underwriting stuff, you don't necessarily need like that. So like, I'm sure there are places I'll end up incorporating it. But I haven't, yeah, I'm not sure I've done too much on that. Now, the one place I've used it there is sometimes looking up like looking for state specific rules. That's often like the quickest way
Yeah.
to log into stuff because that's so nebulous and freaking hard to find sometimes. But even then, can't, you know, it gives you the wrong answer a lot too. So like, it's a good starting point, but like, cause I've asked it questions on compliance stuff and rules where I knew the answer and I've had it give me the wrong answer. So you have to like, it's useful, but you gotta tread lightly.
Trust but verify.
Yeah.
Servicing
Okay.
notes, also having it review servicing notes to pull out key data, because a lot of times it's like call borrower, no answer, call borrower, no answer. And it's like 700 rows. So we've had it review servicing notes is one area or item that we've also tried to, and again, we still look at them, but we ask, hey, is there anything initial review? Because let's say we got a loan under due diligence and it's like, oh yes, the borrower, murdered 3 people in the property and, or the property had a major fire. We created kind of like a little, I'll call it an agent or whatever, to look for keywords, water damage, water, fire, like certain things. So if it scrubs the notes and finds things that would revert to there's property damage on the inside or whatnot, instead of going through all this due diligence, ordering title, ordering all this stuff, it's like, boom, you did it. It's like, oh, this had fire damage or whatnot. It's like, okay, nope, we're not buying this one. So again, you still need to do the work, but it can streamline and, back to that efficiency factor.
Basically, you can just give it, hey, just give me the Cliff Notes version so I can make a quick decision on pass or fail.
Yeah,
I like that. That's very cool. Well, I didn't have any other topics I really wanted to dive into since we only have a few minutes left. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up and talk about?
Not too much. Do you have some, Chris? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I learned about tax surpluses recently. That was something I never quite understood. So I had this note where the property burned down. This was maybe 4 years ago, something like that. And it was funny because the servicer nobody told me it burnt down. I just saw in like the servicing history, I got this payoff, and then the notes, it said something about fire. And I was like, what? And, the borrower had insurance, it paid off. So I got the loan. So then and this was a land contract. So I deeded it over to the borrower. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Well, I guess they never recorded the deed, because then I started getting like this stuff about code violations, blah, blah, blah. Because I don't know if they didn't clean it up or what. And then I started getting notices about like delinquent taxes. And I just kind of ignored them and threw them in the trash because I'm like, I got paid. I sent them the deed. Like, they can do whatever they want with this thing. And then I found out recently that in September of 2022, it was sold at tax sale.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think there were like $4,000 in taxes owed, and the borrower never recorded the deed. So it was still in my name. And I guess the lot sold for like $30-some thousand. So I had this like $27,000 tax surplus.
Yeah.
Which apparently there's a limit of like 3 years. So that was actually running out in like a couple months. So anyways, I submitted all the stuff for that. And now I'm supposed to be getting a check in a couple weeks. Indianapolis, actually. Yeah.
Yep.
So, man, you just ripped open a wound on me right now with that story.
Oh, sorry.
Let me share similar situation where we had a loan that taxes were owed, and it was like at the time worth more, like around the same price as the property. We didn't do anything, like just let it go tax sale or whatever, and just kind of whatever. And it was one that was like a throw-in to a pool we bought, I think like $100 cost at a loan or whatever. We did, when we bought it, got the assignment recorded, so forth. So last year, we got a notice that the heirs were trying to claim the tax overage. And we're like, oh. So I reach out and they're like, well, actually, you could file the motion to get these costs because you were owed more than what that is. So you can collect the $59,000. And I'm like, oh boy. So I engage an attorney to, go fill out all the paperwork, and, come July, there's supposed to be a hearing. We're supposed to get the documents signed or whatnot. And allegedly, okay, I always throw allegedly now into these conversations, it didn't get signed, and allegedly something didn't get done that should have gotten done. And allegedly our time expired in regards to the redemption, and allegedly something may have gotten screwed up along the way, potentially by said attorney, that essentially got me zero, even though I was rightfully owed the 59,000. So
I bet that attorney still charged you for his time, though.
So if anybody knows attorneys who sue attorneys for malpractice in the state of Texas, please let me know. So another
How long ago was
text.
this?
Oh, I'm still in the middle of it. Literally, like
Okay.
this is still, that's why everything's alleged.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other one that is somewhat comical, but a non-performing note, and tax lien it's Maryland, tax lien was sold. And again, tax lien gets sold, they have to wait a year before they can file foreclosure, whatever case may be.
Right.
So we buy it, $3,000 to redeem the taxes. So there, it's like 2 years ago. So you also have to pay the current taxes as well. So we go pay the lien holder who bought the lien, pay them off, and then, pay the city. And then we get an email from the city confirming that everything's been redeemed. So we also need the redemption from the person we bought the tax lien from. So we're requesting it, and the person turns around and files a foreclosure notice. And my attorney's like, what are you doing? It's been redeemed. And this individual, it's an attorney, I guess, who's only got about less than a year under their belt, tells my attorney, well, I believe that everything hasn't been satisfied. So it's kind of like, well, it's great that you believe that, but read the flipping email from the city of Baltimore that clearly shows it's been redeemed. So he's like, well, I'm not, basically he's telling my attorney, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to continue to move forward. And my attorney's like, I'm giving you one last chance to dismiss the case. Otherwise, I'm going to request it be dismissed. And oh, by the way, I'm going to add attorney's fees and sanctions against you for a fraudulent case. So this is literally from this morning, so I don't know what the outcome is yet. So we're in real time here with
never a dull moment, man.
Yeah, no, God, no. I mean, so.
Oh wow, I have purchased a number of tax liens over the years, and some of my best deals on the real estate side have been getting the tax lien, and then getting buying that, and then getting the property. So. And then turn around and selling it, and then turn around and selling it with seller financing.
It's gotten a lot harder because all the institutions got involved, and they're buying everything up in the bulks. Or, if you deal with, where is it, like Gary, Indiana, or Marion County, Indiana, I think where you are, Jay?
Yeah, Marion County, that's a whole different ball game. Yeah,
that's where mine is.
Yeah. What happens there is, from what I read, basically the people who are like, for the government are in cahoots with the buyers, and basically it's like, it's a big, mafia scam in some of these locations of where, you're buying these liens. It's like the same person buying them every year or whatnot and getting them, and people are claiming they bid more for them, but it still, flows to somebody's brother-in-law or whatever the case may be, ironically. So
it tends to, the institutions come in from the standpoint of trying it. A number of years back, before they changed the laws on what the interest rate they paid, institutions came in just to get 10 to 15% interest on their money. They couldn't, you're not going to be able to get that in a relatively safe environment.
Yep.
But they've adjusted that, at least in Indiana here, so it's not quite as lucrative as it used to be. But there'll still be some institutions, but it's not as heavy as it used to be. At least in our county, it's not.
Is it 8% now?
It's 5 in the first 6 months, and then I think it goes up to 10 in the second 6 months.
Okay.
Maryland, people buy it down to literally, government bond rates. So
Yeah, they're a buy down situation, whereas we bid up in Indiana.
Yep.
Every state's a little different in how they work that.
Mhm.
So good times.
good old tax liens,
Yeah.
taxes, taxes and insurance.
Taxes.
Always the fun stuff that note investors hate to deal with.
Very true.
That's why people who deal with seconds, I'm like, yeah, deal with tax and insurance, I guess. So that's one of the benefits when you're in the second space.
Well, Dan, you're probably good that you didn't. If I was in your position of what you would have done, I would have filed that deed myself rather than just giving it to him to make sure that I was out of the deal. But in this particular case,
Yeah, I mean that was probably the smarter thing to do.
So,
Yeah.
What's the reality is, like today, I will absolutely make sure that deed gets recorded. 6-7 years ago, I'm like, here it is. You go pay for get it recorded because I don't want to pay for it and whatnot. And
that was my attitude at the time.
Yeah, and now I'm in the same boat. I go back and I have entities that aren't even still open, and I get tax notices, and I'm still on the deed, and I'll reach out to people. I'm like, dude, like, go record this thing because if you drop dead,
it's my property.
It's my property, and
Yeah.
I don't want it. But hey, look, I've given you ample opportunity.
Yeah. So
There's statute of limitations on that.
Statute of limitations on everything. So no, deed's not getting recorded or forgetting to record a deed.
Yeah, I've had issues when I sell to other investors, and they just either forget to record the deed, or they just don't understand that they have to record the deed once they get it to them. So I would get like all the residual, same thing you guys were getting, notices and stuff like that. Hey, there's a problem, or the health and hospital actually subpoenaed me to go to court. And it was just like, I haven't had that note for 3 years. Like, where's this going from? I was like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Note buyer, you didn't record the quitclaim deed. Like, this is a problem.
Where you got to be careful, though, is if you sell it to somebody and it's property that's run down, they don't record it, and then you start getting the fines and the violations.
That's exactly right.
And then I had that with somebody that we all know who was doing that, and basically because they never recorded any of the deeds. And I was like, flip and record this thing because, and then next time I sold to him, I'm like, I actually got it recorded. I'm like, it's already in your name. Here you go. So.
Yes, and they paid for the recording.
That's right.
Part of the closing costs.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, that's a wrap for today. Good discussion. If anybody has comments or questions, obviously, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and reach out on whatever platform that you're watching this on and send us a question, and we will get back to you. So, Chris, Dan, Jay, thanks a lot, my friends, and we'll see you next month.
Take care.
Have a good one, everyone.
See you guys.